All right, welcome to the multifamily. All right, I'm not even gonna do it. I can't do the intro right now, so we'll just do intros first. So Freddie, if you want to tell us what you do, where you're from, and just drop your contact info, what you're looking for. Try to keep it to like 30 seconds. We'll come for everyone, and then we'll get started.
Hi, my name is guys. My name is Freddy Polanco. I have several multifamilies. Always looking for more. Looking for like the 8, 12 or more, whatever. I just got triplex and duplex when it comes to multifamily. Looking for really anything. If anybody has anything, my phone number is 248-602-8614. But if you don't get it, get with Tio. Tio's like one in Nama. They're like my two best friends right now. Whatever I need, I really gotta say, I'm sorry guys, but I'm really grateful to what you guys do with me.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. So we'll go to Travis. Give us a quick intro, man.
Hey, evening guys. Travis, I'm working in automotive as a program manager right now. Just looking to start dabbling into real estate in general. I run an investment group and we're looking to basically understand how some of these deals are structured when you have some outside investors jumping in. So yeah, looking to learn.
Awesome. George?
Yeah, hey guys, hey everyone. I am doing fix and flips right now. Also do wholesale on the side. Use that to fund some of my deals, and then looking forward to getting into multifamily and commercial over the next year. So I've been doing a couple of these. They've been very helpful. So I'm looking forward to this one and moving forward with this in the future. So thanks for hosting, guys.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. We'll go to Eric next.
Okay. Eric Stevens, Metro Detroit, real estate agent. Still pretty new, so I'm just trying to learn as much as possible right now. But yeah, right now just picked up a couple of clients and learning right now. So yeah.
Cool, man. Keep getting after it. Safe. Maybe he's busy. Safe going once, going twice. We'll come back to safe. He's on the phone. What? Okay. How do you hear that? We'll go to Andrew.
Hey guys, I have one duplex out in Brighton now. I'm looking to get another 2 to 4 unit residential multifamily this year. Probably like a value add kind of property. I think that's pretty much all I got.
You missed out on the one next door to you, huh?
I sure did. Well, there's always a chance it'll fall through. It's still pending, but I keep checking every day. Yeah.
Mike.
Hello guys, I'm flipper most of the time. Right now I'm working on my rental portfolio. I got several projects, 3 projects in Bagley area, 2 are flipping, and one is on the market tomorrow, and another one in 2 weeks. And third project probably is going to be rental. I'm very active in Virginia Park, in Detroit, and I'm looking for more properties in Virginia Park for rent. So most of them are duplexes. I got a couple of properties in Grand Rapids for rent, and I would like to expand it in multifamily market. So times to times I'm get some leads on multifamily, but still looking for, touching any multifamily, like from 8 to 10. So that's the same. Let's say that 8 to 12 units, but I'm looking for the project. So I want to build up the, that's after the project, it's supposed to be rented out, and I got equity in this project.
Perfect. Sweet. Thanks for joining us, Mike. We'll go to Subra next, man. Congrats on your duplex. I saw you just closed on that. Give us a quick intro if you're available. Subra. All right, Neil. You there?
He's just unmuted.
Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry I was on mute. Yeah, my computer doesn't have a camera, so I can't get myself on. Hi everyone, I'm Subra Sundareswaran. I'm a local real estate investor here in Troy. I have 4 single-family homes, 2 in Lincoln Park, 2 in Troy, and I got my first duplex last month in Hamtramck. So for sale by owner, I'm slowly trying to get myself into multifamily. Looking hopefully in Oakland County and Wayne County. For some reason, I don't have any experience in Macomb County, so I'm trying to stay away from her. I'm only looking for less than 20 units and value add properties. I'm not looking for something that's already like stable and top capped. So I don't want those ones. I'd rather go with ones that need a little bit of updating, interior or exterior, and then units that are like either 80% or 70% occupied, so that there'll be some value add in there. So if you guys come across something, please shoot me a text or whatever. You can reach me at 313-808-3604. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us. We'll go to John next. Give us a quick intro. Where you're from, what you do.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Name's John Johnson, new to multifamily. Just trying to find that first multifamily property. Just looking to network with anyone and everyone just to learn how to get that first one. You know, what does it take? And so I'm here. I will.
We'll go to Ben next.
Baby's gonna come in and say goodnight.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Just looking to network with everyone to see if I can get that first one. So I'll drop my email in the chat box.
For sure. Yeah, everyone drop your contact info in the chat so you can all get hold of each other. Ben, how are you, man?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, good.
I'm in my garage because 3-year-old is about to go to bed. So there's bikes above my head. Odd perspective. I'm a single family investor. I live in Novi area, Walled Lake, and trying to buy an apartment building this year is my goal. So anybody who's got leads on that, it's a tough market. If I can't find anything, I'll just stay in single family. I like it. It's treated me well, but haven't dabbled in any duplexes or anything yet. Might just make the leap. But that's what I'm doing.
Awesome.
All rentals, never done a flip. I do, I like to buy and hold. So.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us. We'll go to Paul Jones. Paul Jones, you available?
On the phone.
On the phone. All right, we'll go to Dave. How are you, Dave? We just joined us. We're just doing quick intros. What you do? Tell us what you do in real estate. If you're available. If not, we'll go to Safe. I don't know. Safe might still be on the phone. So we will do you guys' intros towards the end. So I will do our intros here. Hold on. For the first time ever, well, not ever, but I usually always forget the slides. So I got the slides now. So my name's Teal Bogdan, full-time investor, used to be an engineer, retired from that. I think it's been like almost 2 years now. I don't remember, a year? I don't know. It's been a good road. We do fix and flips, rental properties, got some Airbnbs, and got a property management company, and we're also contractors. So we're looking for multifamily deals to purchase or partner on, and we will pay finder's fees, and that is my contact info right there. And got Nate.
Yeah. Sorry, Nathan Ganane. I'm a full-time investor in Metro Detroit. Also own a property management company. And when we do that together, and we have a construction division as well. But yeah, do a lot of buy and holds, and a lot of fix and flips.
And without further ado, we will go to Kelli and Derek. They will be sharing with us today. Did you guys have something that you guys wanted to share? So I can turn my sharing off and let you guys introduce yourselves and get right into it.
Awesome.
Let me share my screen. Cool. All right. Well, gentlemen, thanks for having us. We are Kelli and Derek Gibbs, and tonight we will talk about a 16-unit multifamily that we just recently sold in Pinckney. Maybe. There we go. All right, so I am also working in a project management role at an automotive company. And I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and I, like Tio, am looking to retire myself from that field very soon. Prior to that, I worked in the construction industry in a bunch of different jobs, from house framing to painting to basically you name it. Kelli is working as a registered dietitian at U of M Health Systems. She was the treasurer of the Michigan Registered Dietitian Association for several years, did all their financial work, and planned their annual conventions. So how did we get to where we are now? Basically, we were looking for a way to work less and spend more time with family, traveling, and exploring new interests. We were kind of sick of the rat race, and we're looking for a way to get out of it. So we started Googling, like, what's an easy way, kind of an easy side hustle we can start. We saw after the 2008 crash, some of our neighborhood houses selling for really cheap, like houses that were $250,000 last year. In 2010 were going for $60,000 and $80,000. People were buying them and turning them into rental properties and doing really well with them. So we thought, hey, how do we get in on some of that? So we started Googling around and found Bigger Pockets, spent about a year listening to podcasts and reading their forums, read a bunch of books on real estate investing, and decided to do a live-in flip. So we started rehabbing our house and then put it on the market and sold it, made a little money, and then took that money and decided to put it into a multifamily property. And through our studies, we had heard from a bunch of people, do the biggest deal you can afford right from the get-go. Don't mess around, and that'll set you up better, moving forward. So that's what we tried to do. So we used all of our savings, the proceeds from the house, and every other nickel we could scrape together to buy our first apartment building. So our first deal was this deal in Pinckney. It was 16 units built in 1972. We bought it in December of 2018 for $755,000. We put $220,000 down and financed $604,000 at 6%. Because it was our first multifamily property deal, and we went through a local bank, the interest rate was a little higher than we were hoping to pay, but we wanted to get into the business, and that's what we had to do at the time. So that's what we did. So capital repairs, we spent about $60,000 upgrading the units. We put new roofs on, did a bunch of work in the common areas, and replaced some of the furnaces and water heaters and things like that. The previous owner that we bought it from had it for 25 years before we bought it. He obviously had no mortgage on the property. He was an old school guy. He was in his 80s and he was just looking to retire. He was tired of managing the property. And he was, because he was an old school guy, he didn't like a lot of hassle. So he tried to keep a lot of older people in the apartments so that, he didn't get a lot of complaints or maintenance requests or any of that kind of stuff. And because of that, he kept the rents really low. He hadn't raised rents in 10 years, and the average rent when we bought the property was $565. So when we took over the property, we had a couple of vacancies right away, which was unfortunate, but at the same time, it was good for us so we could turn those units and raise the rents. And we rehabbed those units, raised the rents up, And when we sold the property, the average rent was $810. So it was a pretty big increase over what we bought it at. And when we sold at $1,050,000, which was $300,000 over what we paid for it. So and that was after 18 months. So in 18 months, we made a little over 100% return on our money. And these are some before and after pictures. So when we bought it, the place was in a little bit of disarray because, you know, he was trying to keep his expenses really low. He hadn't been there in years because he was 85. He didn't really drive much anymore. So he had a live-in maintenance guy that was taking care of the property, but as you can see, not so great. So one of the first things we did was tear out a bunch of the landscaping and try and make the place look nice, replace the front steps and put in some new mulch and new plants. And we painted the front doors. Unfortunately, this picture doesn't have it, but right after we took this picture, we painted the front doors. So tried to spruce the exterior up a little bit, power washing and that kind of stuff. The interior hadn't been touched since 1972. It was all original carpet. It's hard to tell in that picture, but there was like shop lights all over the place for lighting. So it was like, you know, the old school fluorescent tube 4-foot shop lights. So we got rid of all that kind of stuff. There was a bunch of like plastic trees and stuff in there collecting dust, you know, and the place was a little dirty and dingy, so, and not very well lit. So the first thing we did was paint the common areas, new carpet, all new LED lighting to brighten it up, and it looked much nicer afterwards. After that, we had a couple of units, like I said, to rehab. So that was one of the first things we tackled, was getting in there and getting these units turned. Kelly and I did all of the rehab work ourselves, which, you know, we know that that's kind of a silly thing to do, but at the time we were doing it to save some money. So we spent a lot of nights after work over there tearing out cabinets and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff, right? So as you can see in the picture, it wasn't that it was in terrible shape, but it was just old. You know, it was all original 1970s stuff. You know, sheet vinyl flooring and old particle board cabinets. The cabinets actually held up pretty well considering their age. But you know, the outsides were chipped a lot in the corners. The drawers didn't slide well. So we pulled all of the cabinets out, put new cabinets and countertops, sinks, faucets. We put new luxury vinyl plank flooring. We replaced all the fixtures. So we went with low flow toilets, low flow faucets. We were paying the water bill, so we wanted to try and reduce expenses there as well. So to cut down on some of that cost, we put in all new low flow fixtures. We put in LED lights so we didn't have to change bulbs anymore. Same thing in the bathroom. So the bathrooms were all original. So the first thing we did was tear out the 1970s toilets because most of them leaked really bad and they were constantly running, which was probably costing this guy a fortune. Same thing with the fixtures. You know, they were really old fixtures. They leaked. The sinks dripped. The bathtub faucet dripped. You know, so this guy was probably spending a ton of money on water bills every month. So the first thing we did was replace that stuff. We put in new vinyl flooring in the bathroom, new toilets, new faucets, new vanities and countertops, and basically the works. Spruced it up, made it look a lot nicer. So where do we find this property? One thing we heard right away was tell everyone you know that you're looking for an apartment building, that you're a multifamily investor, that you are interested in buying an apartment building, because you never know who might have one for sale or who might know somebody that has one for sale. So that's what we did. We went around and told everybody we knew, hey, we're looking to buy apartment buildings. We're multifamily investors. And we were in our attorney's office doing some work on a personal matter. Our attorney's husband is also an attorney and they share an office. He overheard us talking and said, hey, I know a guy that's looking to sell an apartment building. He's in his 80s. Would you guys be interested in taking a look at it? And we said, yeah, absolutely. So he said, well, it's an 8-unit property. It's right around the corner in Pinckney. If you guys want to go over and take a look at it, here's the address. So we drove by it and right away said, hey, this place has a ton of potential. It's all brick. It's got nice mansard roofs. The shingles need to be replaced, but it looks pretty well kept other than that. You know, the structure of the building was in really good shape. So we said, yeah, absolutely. We'd like to definitely pursue buying this building. And he said, well, actually, he owns both of the buildings, that one and the one next to it. And if you guys are interested, he might be willing to sell both of them. So the only problem with working with him was that he, being in his 80s, did everything by fax machine. So you would have to call him and tell him you wanted to fax him a document, and then he would put his phone on the fax, and then you could fax him documents, and then he would fax you back documents. So it took a really long time to get paperwork, and his records were terrible. So trying to get documents, you know, when you buy a multifamily property, the bank is really interested in the history of the building. They want to know rent roll and, you know, expenses and all that kind of stuff, right? And they want to see records of that for at least 12 months, and they want to see tax returns for 2 or 3 years. And it was really hard for this guy to come up with that kind of stuff. And then, you know, it took him months of faxing documents to us to get that stuff from him. So it took a little while. He had some family issues during that time. His wife had some health problems. So it was an on again, off again. And at the end of the day, it took us 14 months to close this deal. So because we really wanted to buy a multifamily property, we had that never quit mentality. We persevered and we just kept pushing it, right? I called him every month and said, hey, you know, what's the latest? What's going on with the property? Ready to talk yet? And eventually we sealed the deal. So some of our future goals are to sponsor a 100+ unit deal this year, to get our certified apartment manager and independent rental property certifications. And then some long-term goals are to increase our portfolio to 1,000+ units, to quit our jobs, and to win some awards for our property. And then finally to give back and mentor maybe some other people locally and see if we can help them get started and do the same thing we did. Any questions?
That was awesome.
How did you sell your multifamily?
How did we sell it?
Yeah, or list it.
So actually we had a partner in the deal and we ended up selling it to our partner. We
Okay.
talked to a couple of brokers and we were gonna list it, and those guys ended up wanting to keep it. We felt like, Kelly and I felt like we achieved our business plan, and we had the goal we set for the property originally we had achieved. So we decided that it was in our best interest to get out at that point and take that money and roll it into another property. And like I said, our partner wanted to keep it, so we ended up selling it to him. He ended up buying us out. So it was good for both of us.
Cool, thanks.
It's awesome.
I'm guessing Mike's on mute for a reason, but he said, why not hold for a couple more years and then refinance? That was Mike.
Yeah, yep. And I think I just kind of answered that, right?
Yeah,
So we were talking about holding it for a while. And originally when we bought it, our original intention was to hold it for 5 or 7 years. But again, we turned it around really quickly. I think rehabbing those units so quickly and getting the rents up so quickly surprised us a little bit. And we weren't expecting to do that. You know, when we bought it, we had a pro forma, right, that had our business plan going out for 5 years. And, you know, we had set certain goals for the property and expected the valuation to hit a certain number in year 3 or 4. And we achieved that in 18 months. And at that point, we said, hey, maybe it's time to just, you know, we achieved our business plan and our goal. Maybe it's time to get out now and take this money while the market's hot and see if we can roll it into a bigger property. So
yeah, we actually achieved the goal in 12 months, but because of the process of negotiating, were we going to sell it, were we going to hold it, were we refinance it, and then them buying us out. So that took a few months, and that was during COVID. So the bank put everything on hold. So we would have done it in 12 months or just over 12 months, but because of COVID, it took a little bit longer. I think for us, we recognize that we could deploy our capital in a bigger unit, right? You always go big, right? As big as you can go. And we had a lot of money in this deal. So if we could take that capital out and redeploy it somewhere else in a bigger unit, it just made sense for scale.
No, that's sweet. So essentially, so when you guys were turning units, how did you, I guess, turn the units, or did you turn them all? I guess is my first question. And like when you turned them, did you kind of like bump rents, or I know you said like some people moved out, but I guess how did that whole process work out for you guys? Like, did a lot of people like leave when you try to raise the rent, or kind of how did you guys handle that?
No, actually nobody left because we raised the rent. We had two people that, so, anytime people don't like change, right? So anytime you take over a property, a couple of people are going to leave. It's inevitable. And that's what happened, right? Like they were just worried that we were going to come in and make all these big changes and they didn't know what to expect. So they were like, well, we got some opportunities to go someplace else. We're just going to part ways. So we had two vacancies pretty much right from the get-go in the first month. Like I said, that gave us an opportunity to go in and turn those units. So we went in and cleaned them up. You saw what we did, right? And then when we released those units up, we leased them at the new rate. So when we took this building over, it's 16 units. 14 of them are one bedrooms and 2 of them are 2 bedrooms. But again, because the previous owner didn't like having younger people in the apartment because he thought of them as being a potential hassle to him, he listed them all as 1 bedrooms. And the 2 bedrooms, he said 1 bedroom with a den. So he didn't charge additional rent for them. And he did that on purpose to try and keep younger people out of his apartment building. So the first thing we did was turn those 2-bedroom units and raise the rent on them and market them as a 2-bedroom unit. So rents went from, those were at $565 or something, and rents went to $850 or something like that in those units. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's also important to know that everyone was month to month. And when we started looking at putting leases in place, we just basically increased the rent on those existing. First of all, we went in and fixed their maintenance issues. So if a unit wasn't turning, everybody had some maintenance that had been deferred. And so we went in there and went over every unit, fixed the deferred maintenance, and then we presented them with their lease with the increased rate. So if their unit wasn't rehabbed, it didn't go to 810, but it did go up to 675.
Yeah.
And we didn't lose anybody with rent increases from 565 to 675. Just fixing the maintenance issues. And then we staggered the leases. So everyone wasn't going to be up at the same time, and that worked really well. Like Derek said, as the units emptied, we turned them. We ended up in that 12 months turning 5 units or 6 units, 6 units that last month. Yep. We turned 6 of the units. So 6 are at market rate of 810. The rest were at
they're at 695 now.
695 now. We continue to increase rents. So some people had a 3-month lease, and when that lease was up at 3 months, just so we'd stagger them, we increased that. We just kept bumping up the rents, but we didn't lose anybody for rent increases.
Yeah, the rents, some of the rents when we took over, so the average was 565, but some of the rents were 535, which those people had been in there for 10 years or 12 years at that point. And for us to go from 535 to 675 was a huge jump for them. And we explained like, hey, we did all this work in the common areas. We're trying to improve your quality of life. We realize it's a big jump, but we feel like we added that value to you. So we understand if it's not going to work for you, but we hope that you'll stay. And they all did.
That's awesome.
How much did like that renovation cost on like a unit, those couple units you turned?
So I would say with the 1 and 2 bedroom units, we probably averaged between 5,000 and 6,000.
No, I think it was more around 30. It depended if we needed appliances. Some of the units had appliances already in them, so if we had to buy an appliance package, that changed things a lot. I would say on average, probably more like 3,500. Yeah. Remember, we did the work, so.
Kelly did all the books, so.
Yeah.
It was about 30.
It seemed like more to me. Again, this was mostly our labor. So when we did the common areas, we had someone do the carpet and we had someone paint those. But we did most of the rest of the stuff. One unit, we had a ton of drywall repairs to do. So we had somebody come in and do the drywall and paint that unit. We had another unit that they had smoked in terribly for many, many years. It was so bad that nicotine was dripping down the walls. And we had to scrub it all off, but it smelled so bad in there that we had to put the shellac kills on it. And we put like 3 coats of the shellac kills on it. We pulled the carpet out and put it on the subfloors. We had the heating HVAC ducts all treated, and it was terrible. So we paid somebody to come in and do that kind of stuff.
Nice.
That was another thing we actually did. We went to a smoke-free there were smoke-free buildings when we took over. So no tenants could, or no residents could smoke in the building. They have to leave the building. So that was a big improvement because the common areas were essentially common. The ducts from each one of the units heated that common area, and if people were smoking in their unit, it would really just smell the building up a ton. So that was a benefit. Most of the residents, appreciated that very much.
Nice. And I saw you guys did like the floating floors and like the kitchens and the bathrooms. Did you do that in the units or just kind of redid the carpet?
The carpet was actually in really good shape, surprisingly. So we tried Stanley Steamer to see if they could come out and clean it up, and they all turned out really well. So we kept the carpet that was in the living room and bedroom.
Yeah, only in that really bad smoking unit that we had to pull it out. It was so offensive. But most of the other carpet was able to be cleaned properly. Yeah.
Yeah, the first floor units, we don't mind the vinyl plank, but for noise, we didn't want to put it in the second floor units. So we definitely kept all the carpet up there.
Okay, that makes sense. And I was also going to ask, you said you did like the low flow toilets and like fixtures. And I guess you didn't own it for too long, but did you notice some sort of difference? I guess I don't know how many units you guys were able to do, but did you notice anything using that stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. Even just in the small time that we had it, and we only did 6 units, but it was a huge savings in our water bill every month.
In the deferred maintenance, when we went unit to unit and wrote down all the deferred maintenance, there were so many leaky faucets, like tubs leaking, toilets running constantly. So we did all that right up front.
Yep. Even though we didn't rehab those units, we went in and changed all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, remember, we did think we were going to be holding this property, and we didn't want to do anything. We wanted to do things that would last, essentially. So we thought we were going to hold the property, so we wanted to do everything up front. And it's good for our partners because now they've got a building that was, that's in good condition, and
lots of new stuff, cheaper to operate. There's a couple of things that are low-hanging fruit like that, right? That you want to knock out right away, and it'll save you money the whole time you own it. So another thing we did was renegotiate a lot of the service contracts. They had the same guy cutting the grass for the last 10 years, and every year he bumps the price up. So, over 10 years, it started out at, $200 a month, but now it's $500 a month, right? And they never renegotiated it. Same thing with the trash, right? All of that stuff.
Snow removal.
Yeah, snow removal. So the first thing we did was all those contract services, we called all the vendors and renegotiated those contracts, right? So the trash we cut in half, the landscaping we cut in half. So that's simple stuff that you can knock out right off the top and save yourself a ton of money. You look at expenses, and the general rule of thumb is expenses should be approximately 50% of your income, right? And if you see expenses are 70% of your income, that's some low-hanging fruit you can go in there and take care of right away.
Yeah, at the time of the negotiation of refinancing versus selling, I think we were at like 42 or 43% expenses, which was really good. That just shows you can really cut expenses significantly.
Yeah, with simple stuff, right? And still offer our residents a quality place to live.
Oh, we did negotiate taxes too.
Yep, that was another thing. We went to the city and negotiated our taxes.
Yeah,
How was that? How,
that was good.
Actually, it was really easy. Yeah, they were really good about it.
I didn't even have to do anything formal. I basically just talked to them and told them, looking at buildings in the area that were similar to ours that had sold, had lower taxes than ours, and they sold at higher amounts. So the neighbor building had sold for 895,000. The two neighbor buildings, they're identical to ours. So ours sold for we bought ours for 755. The neighbor building sold 1 month prior to us purchasing ours for 895. And so I had their tax assessment to show the city that they had they'd increased our taxes more in relation to this neighbor building. So they adjusted it. So we saved on taxes as well.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about a small town like Pinckney is that you can just call them up and they're really friendly. It's not like some big cities where you have this big bureaucracy and you have to go through all this hassle to try and get that stuff adjusted.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask if that was a small town because I had the same experience on the 6 unit we bought last year. They charged us for trash pickup and it was like $200 a unit, right? So our tax bill was like crazy, crazy high. So I just called. I'm like, hey, we actually have a dumpster. And she's like, oh, okay, we'll just take that off. I'm like, oh, okay, it's that easy. I was expecting this to be way harder.
Yeah, nice, right?
Yeah.
You really have to pay attention to those things.
Yeah, if nobody's watching that stuff, it's real easy for it to just go by the wayside. And next thing you know, you have this huge bill. It can cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
So is that something you guys practice every year? You look at other buildings and what their taxes are?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to keep an eye on your taxes and all of your contract services as well, right? So every year, it's just like your cable at home, right? Like every year Comcast raises your rate. Well, you should call them and say, hey, I'm not paying that, right? Like there's no reason that you should double my rate every year. So
I'm curious about when you guys went through the process of renovating. I guess I'm not quite sure if you renovated all of them or it sounds like maybe just some of them, but did you first approach tenants that were living there and offer them to move into the renovated units and then renovate the one they moved out of, or like how'd that process go?
we didn't, and we could have done that, but we weren't in a hurry to renovate the whole building. So again, our business plan, we had planned to do this over 3 or 4 years. So we weren't in a big hurry to kick everybody out. A lot of these people had been in there for 10 years, 12 years. This was their home. We didn't want to disrupt them, so we didn't want to move them into a renovated unit so they go from 535 to 750 or something.
Or 810.
Yeah, or 810 or whatever, right? So we decided that it was probably in everybody's interest to just go slow with it, right? And if people left, we would turn the units, but we weren't going to force anybody out.
Yeah. So some of our tenants had been there for 16 years, right? This is their home. They don't want to move from their unit. Like they're in that unit. We had a number of them that had been there for a very long time. So when they knew those renovations were going on in those other units, we did tell them, like, if you want that unit, you can rent that unit, but it's at this market rate, right? So they have the opportunity to rent a unit at market rate. But for us, it's a small community, and we didn't feel comfortable sort of, letting the leases go up and saying, hey, you're out of here, we're going to renovate this unit and jack the price up. Like, that's not something we felt comfortable doing. We knew we could, we knew we didn't need to do that.
Yeah, we made enough money without having to resort to that.
Yeah, thanks. So you did, I guess you'll say, marginal increases for them to get them to a market of the unit that they, in the condition it was, and then you renovated the units as they became vacant.
Yeah,
Exactly.
when we
Cool.
sold the property, we had a loss to lease of, I think, about $1,650 a month. So that's the difference between what we're leasing some of those units at and the market rate. So when you look at the units that hadn't been renovated, the difference was about $1,650 a month. So a significant amount is still there for potential growth. But remember, those units would have to still be rehabbed. So you still have to put in that 3,500, or, you know, with us not doing the work, I imagine it's probably more like a $5,000 to $6,000 price point for those units. So it's kind of nice that those units are rented at that amount, because it is still a good income coming in. And remember, when they move out, you've got to renovate those. So there's a big capital expense up front. We had set aside a certain amount of capital expense to rehab the units, and it just worked out perfectly. I mean, we did 6 units over that course of 18 months and got those rents up to market. Yeah.
So how's your search going now for a new building? Tough out there, isn't it?
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. It's tough to find anything that's worth buying, right? Like,
yeah, because we definitely want another value add. We want to, you know, grow our capital, of course, but our next deal is going to be, you know, a sponsored deal, a syndication. So it'll be a little bit different in terms of the money we put into that deal.
yeah, and the business plan will be a
And the
little bit
business
different.
plan
yeah.
is a little bit different as well.
We in December we bought a 35 unit with some friends, and that was okay. It was tough to find, right? Like talked to a ton of brokers, and you know, it was competitive to try and win that deal, and we had to put a bunch of hard money up and whatnot, right? But we're looking for something probably maybe twice that size now. So it's even more competitive, right? And the more kind of value add stuff that you're looking for, that's what everybody's looking for, right? So that market is super competitive. Cap rates are actually lower on value add properties than they are on yield deals, right? So it's really tough, really competitive out there right now.
Are you guys just looking in Michigan, or where is your main area?
Yeah, so we've been looking in Michigan. We're looking in Columbus and Indianapolis also. Those are 2 pretty strong markets. We want to stay kind of someplace that's within 4 hours ish of driving. You know, in case we have to go there all the time, at least for a while. So that's why we're trying to stay closer to home. Michigan would be great, but you know, there's not a lot of deal flow in Michigan. There's a lot of communities where we don't like the politics in, so we're staying out of those areas, you know.
Did you purchase the apartment at asking price, or was it lower? And what was your position and or sales pitch to the previous owner for a lower price justification?
So we talked to the previous owner, about owner financing, and he was actually all set to do that. But his wife had cancer, and that was one of the reasons why the negotiation stopped for a few months while she was getting treatment. And at the end of the day, they were concerned about their health, and maybe they weren't going to be around long enough to see that owner financing come to fruition. So they decided they would rather just get cashed out. We paid basically asking what they were asking for it. We felt that there was plenty of value in the property. The rents were way under market, and you know, we knew right away we could get in there and turn a bunch of units, raise some rents, and you know, make plenty of money pretty quickly. So asking price was more than fair.
Yeah, so we had a LOI on the first 8 units. And then when we got the negotiating table, he said, hey, I've got this other building, maybe I'll sell both of them to you. At that point in time, he knew how much the other two buildings were selling for, his neighbor buildings,
That's
because he
right.
was friends with the guy who was selling it. So we did negotiate a little bit in terms of price. He gave us the original LOI, which was a little bit lower on one building and then a little bit higher on the second building. And that's how we came up with the 755. But knowing that the other buildings were selling for 895, and if you looked at the numbers, it totally made sense to spend 755,000 on those.
Yeah, I
buildings.
think even the 895 that the next door neighbor paid was a reasonable price. So we felt like we were getting a smoking deal. The original price we negotiated on the first 8 units was like $50,000 or $70,000 less than we ended up paying for the second 8 units. And because we had originally negotiated that, and then he offered us the second 8 units after he had found out that the one next door sold, he honored his original price. So that was good of him.
Yeah, and how he came up with his price is he talked to his accountant, and his accountant said, you're going to have a little bit of a tax burden here. You need to sell it for X amount. And that's how he came up with his price.
That's right. Yeah.
Not cap rates.
No.
Not any
Yeah.
NOI, none of that
How much
stuff.
do you want to keep? This is how much your taxes are going to be.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And then he faxed the number to us.
I think these, mom and pop buildings that, you can rehab and go in and improve the management. There's so much potential. I mean,
For sure.
The potential that's still in that building, those buildings that we sold to our partners is excellent, right? They have
Yeah, we still left a ton of meat
there's
on the
so
bone.
much meat on the bone. There's so
Mhm.
much more potential. Even, for example, one of the buildings has a basement, and part of our business plan was eventually to put in storage in the basement. And we never even got to that part in the business plan. So they still have the ability to put in storage units that they can rent and increase the NOI.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, so it looked like they all had furnaces. So was it all, obviously electric and heat was paid by the tenants? You guys charge
Yep.
them?
Yeah, they paid the utilities other than water.
Yeah, part of that CapEx cost was replacing a lot of those furnaces. Most of them, the majority of them were past their life.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Anyone else got any questions to throw out there?
Yes, I would just like to thank you for your presentation. I see that you might be looking to, help those that's starting out like myself. So I would love to network with you and get your contact information. But I also had a question about, you said that, I'm pretty sure this is standard practice with a lot of people that have properties for a long time. It's hard for them to get that information that the bank needs for your process for you to close. So any suggestions or advice on, just how, to get that information?
Yep. So that was a definitely a sticking point for us on this deal. The previous owner was in his 80s, and when he bought this building, it was on a handshake. So he didn't understand that this is common practice now, and that the bank isn't going to give you a loan if they don't have income statements and tax information and things like that. They need all that kind of stuff in order for them to say this property can sustain itself, right? And that your debt service ratio is going to be above whatever the bank requirement is. They need to know that income is coming in. So we just sat him down at the table and said, hey, this is the information we need. This is common practice nowadays. The bank requests all this kind of information, or they're not going to give anyone any money. Anyone that's going to buy this place is going to do the same thing that we're doing, and they're going to need the same thing we need. So if it's not us, the next guy is going to ask you for the same stuff.
And we were really patient with them, obviously, through the process. The
Yeah.
other benefit was the attorney who was the negotiating middleman was their attorney. So they already felt right? They already had a working relationship and a trust with their attorney. So
Yeah.
their attorney probably was the key
He
to us.
he helped
getting-
a lot.
yeah.
Yep. We had many conversations with him about how the market works now, and because he's not really a multifamily guy either. He's not a real estate attorney, so a lot of it was new for him also. So some of it was just bringing him up to speed, and that's part of your job if you want to win the deal, right? Is to communicate that stuff with all the parties, whoever the stakeholders are involved.
Okay, appreciate that.
You said you did you say you replaced the roofs?
We did put new roofs on the building, yep.
Do you happen to know how much that was?
So we have a family friend that's actually a roofing contractor, so we probably got a bit of a deal on the roof, but I think they were like 20,000.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember for
Yeah.
some reason.
It was
It wasn't
around 20 grand.
17 maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it was around 20 grand.
Yeah, it's not cheap by any means. Now there was some rot and stuff, so we had to have boards
they
replaced
did a few
as well.
Yeah, some plywood and stuff like that, but yeah.
I mean, he had let it was just totally deferred.
Yeah,
He didn't
some of the
do
shingles were
anything at
like
all.
some of the shingles were completely missing from the wind, and then some of them were so thin, like the material had worn away.
Yeah.
Down to where you could almost see through them, so it was really close to being swimming pools in some of those units.
Yeah. We bought in December, the very end of December.
Yeah.
And we were worried going through the winter, even if we were going to make it till spring without having any damage.
Yeah.
But those are things that we wrote up front. Like we knew how much we were going to need for CapEx for that first year. So we knew exactly what we were going to do. We knew we were going to do the common areas. We knew we were going to do the roof. We knew we were going to do X number of units rehab. So we had set all that money aside.
Yeah, that's really important. You don't want to get where you can't maintain the property and you're struggling to try and use your cash flow to turn units and pay maintenance expenses and stuff like that. You need to plan to have that money up front and take care of all any deferred maintenance and then any of that kind of CapEx stuff right from the get-go. It saves you money in the long run. Your time is valuable too, right? And if you're getting called out there all the time for maintenance requests and things like that, that costs you money too. So if you fix all of that stuff right from the get-go, you've got all new stuff, you got less headaches, less maintenance costs. It saves you money in the long run.
Yeah, never rely on cash flow for rehabs or CapEx. Would never do that. You get yourself into a sticky situation.
Yeah, you start running into a situation where you can't cover it, right? And then the property starts getting in disrepair, and then now nobody wants to live there anymore, and it's a slippery slope. So definitely when you buy something, make sure you plan to fix all of that stuff right from the get-go.
So most of the time the bank requires some sort of fund, a reserve account essentially.
Yeah, especially now during COVID, right? Like they all have big capital requirements and reserve account requirements.
So we had two reserves. We had a reserve that would pay for the mortgage.
Yeah, PITI, right?
PITI, yep. I'm pretty sure it was like a full year. They make you just set that money aside just in case something happens and you can't pay. You've got this fund and you can't touch it. You have to let the bank know and ask them for that money.
I think it was 6 months
Maybe
at the
it was 6
time.
months,
Yeah, I think now it's a year though. But
yeah. And then we had a separate CapEx account that the bank also required us to put in, but we had already done all of the numbers up front and knew how much we were going to put in that account anyway, and already told them like this is how much we were putting in this CapEx account.
yeah, so as you spend that money, they give it back to you.
I guess another important note to make is this deal would have not happened had we not had a relationship with this particular bank. I think it's really important to build relationships with banks. It wouldn't have happened had we not had a long-standing relationship with this bank. They went
out of their way. We actually looked around at a few other banks, and we got a little bit better terms at a different bank, and our partner was really pushing for the other bank. So we actually decided to try and use that bank, and at the last minute that deal fell through. So we called our bank that we had originally planned to use, called them up and said, hey, at the last minute this deal fell through. We apologize. We should have stuck with you guys to begin with. And they were like, no problem. We'll get it to the finish line. And on really short notice, they sealed the deal for us. And that's just because of that relationship. We've been with them for 20 years, so it made all the difference.
Was it just like a small local bank or like a credit union?
That's a credit union that we've been with for a long time. So that's another thing. A lot of banks have kind of pools of money where they invest, and they might have X amount of dollars for this type of a project for multifamily properties or something, right? And if they run out, that's it for the year. So that can happen too, right? So you might have to try a couple of different banks, but if you build a relationship with a bank, especially if you're looking at stuff in this area, this dollar size, that's all going to be local bank money.
Yeah, I think another kind of side note is when we looked at doing like the refinance to keep the building, we would still have to sign on the loan. So it's not like an agency loan. We would still have a bank loan, and our names are on that note, essentially. All four of us, or whatever number of people, sign their name, and you guarantee that full amount on that loan.
Yeah, so that was kind of another deal breaker when it came time to refi. We thought, we don't really want to sign on another recourse loan. We would prefer to get out of the property. So
when you sold, were you guys able to just get off of the loan and leave it to your partners, or how did that work?
We did. So they refinanced it through a different bank and bought us out with the proceeds of their refinance.
Okay. And you guys didn't have like any prepayment penalties or anything?
Nope. That was the great thing about that bank. Yeah, we negotiated that up front.
So most have prepayment penalties. So we luckily did not have that. Usually it starts at 3% or 5%.
Yeah, it just depends, right? Yep. It can be a step down, or it can be some defeasance, right? Like it just depends on who you go with and what the terms of the loan are. But yeah, we were lucky in that some of the other terms weren't as great, right? We paid a little bit more in interest up front, and we were hoping to get a 30-year term or something, and we ended up with a 20-year term. So some of those things weren't as great as maybe we could have gotten someplace else, but no prepayment penalty was a big thing. So
how'd you guys go about that buyout? Like, did you guys get like a formal commercial appraisal, or did you guys?
We did. Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was appraised because the other bank needed the appraisal also, right? So we had it appraised. We agreed on a price, and then negotiated with our partner, and then they took the proceeds from the loan and bought us out, and then had a few bucks left over. So
gotcha.
I think I asked you all of my questions.
Awesome.
Does anyone else have any questions? I always hog the stage. I always write down all the questions I have.
Travis,
yeah, Tio. So I got a question for you. You guys have mentioned sponsoring a deal, and I know there's a lot of other people in here that have done some partnerships in the past. I'm in process of working up partnering with a few people, and also a partnership that I'm involved in now. And I was just kind of curious, kind of the barrier of entry for some of these smaller multifamily complexes that you guys have done in the past. Just general capital, I guess, if anybody could kind of give me a target on that of what to kind of carry to my team. That's one thing I've kind of struggled. There's, you can do all the research you want, but you can't really get some of these details that a lot of you guys have worked with, with your partnerships. So I don't know if anybody had some detail behind that they could share.
So if you're looking to do a deal that's not a syndication, where it's a joint venture or a solo deal, the bank is going to make you put down most likely 25% nowadays. especially like during COVID, they, and with the markets kind of unstable the way they are, a lot of banks are doing a loan to value of 70 or 75% max. So because of that, you'll have to bring 25% of the cash to the table, right? So if you're looking at $1 million property, that's 250 grand, you're gonna have to come out of pocket. And then any reserves and then CapEx budget on top of that. So I would plan on 300 or 3.25, right, for every $1 million you're gonna spend.
Yeah, that's
And
a
then the
good target.
total net worth needs to be equal to the.
Yeah, and then your net worth or the group's net worth generally has to be equal to the loan amount.
Oh, that's a good tip. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
For if you don't mind me asking, for your partnership, were your partners more like silent partners, or did you guys split responsibilities and roles?
They were mostly silent partners. They did a little bit of one of the guys was kind of the Excel guy and did a lot of the spreadsheet work and did all the pro forma and ran a bunch of the numbers. And anytime we had like rehab money and stuff like that, he did a lot of that kind of spreadsheet and cost estimating and things like that. The other guy was the kind of the property manager, if you will. He was maybe the face of the property. So when the tenants called somebody, they called him.
That was what I was going to ask you guys, was how you guys handle property management. So it looks like you guys just kind of utilize one of the partners.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was all in our operating agreement when we formed the company. So everyone had a role. That's kind of a legal requirement also. You'll see if you talk to your CPA, they'll tell you that, or your attorney or both, they'll tell you that, everybody needs to have a job, especially if some of the guys are real estate professionals and they don't have a W-2. They need to show material participation.
Yeah, we all had our own roles, but I feel like it was easy to help each other out. Like we did a lot of just managing whoever was available to manage that issue that day. But it was good to have clear defined roles too. Like I did all of the bookkeeping and payments and all that kind of stuff. And Derek was, maintenance.
Yeah,
stuff.
I did all
like
the
contracting,
contractor work and all the maintenance and that kind of stuff. But a lot of it comes down to knowing your partners and having a good relationship with your partners, and then good communication, right? So we were on the phone constantly, and everybody made decisions jointly, so it went pretty smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your partners that you said were more silent, were they actually limited in your guys' business entity, or were you guys all active, I guess?
Yeah, we were all equal members.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, so when we did, originally when we had the 8 units, we were just going to do that on our own. But when he wanted to sell the 16, that was just a little too much in terms of going from nothing to 16 was a lot for us for a lot of different reasons.
For a lot of reasons, but mostly for capital reasons,
Capital
right?
reasons. We didn't have enough capital and we didn't want the deal to fall through. So we decided to take on partners.
Did you already have like the partners in mind? Like, did you build relationships prior, or was it just some people you kind of were close?
We did. We already had partners in mind, and once we found out that the 16 units were on the table, we approached them and said, "Hey, we've got this deal. Would you guys be interested in partnering with us?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah, we were already deep into it at that point. We had already done most of the due diligence on one building. We had already done inspections and land surveys and environmental reports and all that kind of stuff. We were sort of already in it.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of capital outlay, right, to get to that point. So it wasn't like we were going to walk away.
Yep.
So So I think, you know, building relationships with people is good, you know, always letting people know what you're looking for, right?
Yep.
We're always looking for multifamily buildings and just communicating with people and having a good network.
That's it. Yep. Networking is important, right? And just
really-
trying to be valuable to everybody, right? Like, what can I help you with, and vice versa, right? Like, that's how you build good relationships and get strong partnerships like that.
Definitely. What would you say? Obviously, this deal like worked out really well. Was there like one like lesson learned that like kind of sticks out that is like important to share with, you know, maybe people trying to get started in this?
So many lessons,
So
man.
many.
So many lessons. Yeah.
I think you don't know what you don't know. So experience, you just have to build on your experiences, just like anything. You learn as you go. The CapEx thing, put your CapEx away. Had we not had that money put away and we started having these vacancies up front, we would have run into a big problem.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't rely on cash flow.
That's probably the biggest thing, right?
Huge.
That's probably our biggest takeaway is just make sure you have that money forecasted to fix everything that needs to be fixed.
Especially if you want a value add property.
Yeah. Super important. And then just little like stuff that we learned along the way, because it was our first deal, you know, there was a lot of struggle points, right? We didn't know what we were doing. We'd read a bunch of books and listened to podcasts, but you know, book smart is one thing, practical experience is very different, right? So until you do a deal, you don't know how to do a deal, right? So there was a lot of just stuff that you know, terms we didn't know, and you know, things we could have done better, right? Negotiations could have gone smoother, and just a lot of little stuff like that, right? That you learn that the second time around you're going to get much better at, right?
Yeah.
And you'll sound like you know what you're talking about maybe next time, right?
Have a great CPA and have a great attorney, because the attorney is looking over these documents, and had these documents not been good at the time of a sale or a refinance, especially in a partnership, you want to make sure everything is very, very clear. So I think having you know, a really clean operating agreement, very clean.
Yeah, that's a big thing, right, in your partnership, is to make sure your operating agreement is well thought out. Because you know, if somebody decides they don't want to be a partner anymore, you need to have it in writing what happens.
Right.
You know,
and we
there's
did,
a
so
lot
that
of
made
things
it
that
very streamlined.
you need to think about, right? So that's where paying a good attorney seems like a big expense, but it's actually going to save you money in the long run.
Absolutely. Those contracts are super, super important.
They are.
Yeah.
You all agree at the front end. Once a disagreement comes up, you know, then
that's right.
Lost.
Gotta try and think of all that stuff, right? All the what ifs, and put it in writing ahead of time.
Yeah, I think the things that cost you money will save you money in the long run and time. Using a good property management software for multifamily is essential. For us, we use Buildium, and it's designed for multifamily. So it keeps track of all of your units, all of the payments. It's all electronic.
All your maintenance requests go in there electronically. It's super easy.
You can give access to your CPA, so they can go in and print your reports at the end of the year and do all the K1s and taxes without you, just totally hands off. You just give them the access to those reports and they can go right in and pull them. Yeah, having a good property software. I'm glad we went with a good one up front, because I wouldn't have wanted to switch midway into a different property software program.
Yeah, and Buildium was really good. They, you know, they were fairly new when we first started with them, so they were really into like testing the beta version, right, and getting feedback and upgrading their software all the time. So they were constantly asking us like, hey, what do you guys think of this? What do you think of that? You got any suggestions? And they were really good about implementing. So they were good to work with.
What was that name? I'm sorry. What was that name that you said?
Buildium. It's Buildium, Buildium.
There's some other ones on the market too. Resman would be one.
Yeah, Resman
or-
is like a big commercial.
Yeah, Appfolio is
Yeah,
another
there's a
one.
bunch of them
But
out
you
there, right?
definitely
But
want a good property software. It just streamlines everything. You can send leases to your, I know there's similar things in single family, but these are designed for multifamily, so they just save you so much time.
Nope, I asked all my questions. I mean, I'm sure I could just keep coming up with some, but yeah, I like asking.
awesome.
Have anything? Ask these guys, or just throw out to the room in general. Guess we can just have like an open question thing. If anyone has any more questions, throw them out there.
Well, we just want to say thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I know we tried to get you guys a bunch of times.
Yeah, you know, when we were working on this building every night after work, we just didn't have a lot of time, right? So I'm glad that it eventually worked out.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thanks. It worked out good.
All right, well, you guys can write down our contact info or screenshot it or whatever. And again, thanks for having us, and we'll definitely see you around.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again, guys.
Awesome.
Put everyone got screenshots. How about everyone else? You guys got any other questions? Anything you want to talk about? Any deals that you